Yep.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Good to go.
All right, awesome. Cool, thank you.
Let's not come to the end. Yeah,
I'm just gonna hand over your microphone. So what's about loudly, I guess?
All right, so, as I was mentioning, we had, the previous issue with gathering lead and copper samples. These are the homeowner samples, we brought bottles off at strategic locations, based on the age of the home. There's been a steady decline in, I believe, the past 2 quarters with gathering the minimum amount of bottles that are required. It looks like it, once again, is gonna be under the limit that's required. That does trigger a tier 3 violation. We're going to redo the lead and copper sampling plan, see if there are any homes that have been left out. Issues that we've run into are homes that have been modified over the years. Most people don't keep the same plumbing and the same fixtures in their homes. And a lot of people have added filters to their houses. So that all of this makes that home not maybe built in the right time frame to make them eligible for participation in the sanctioning protocol. We're going to look again, like I said, at some other options, but as more and more houses become improved, as more and more people put filters in, this could be a continuing issue with not meeting the minimum amount.
Does the sampling have to be like houses, or do you get any from like apartment buildings and that type of stuff too?
We do have a few of the apartment buildings that fall in line based on the age. They prefer to have it as spread out as possible in the town. So if we have an apartment building that meets the criteria and has 6 units in it, they really don't want to be all of them, like all 6. They're going to assume that the water quality is the same.
It seems like there's so much housing that's been put up in Norton that we deal with it.
There's a small window of time when they're really targeting the lead solder.
And it's also tiered differently, like a multi-family home isn't rated as highly as a preferred site as a single family home is. So that's another thing, like tier 1 sites versus tier 2A, 2B sites.
So isn't it, they can move forward in time and that people do what you said, then there's less need for it because there's roughness.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But that doesn't work that way.
There's less percentage of it. It's not the same number of
But
homes
you would think the
that have it.
number of samples needed would be reduced.
Yes.
Okay, so the easiest answer, yes. Okay. It just doesn't seem to work that way in most communities. So then it pays not to have anybody upgrade their water system. It creates limitations on our end if they do modifications on theirs, which is an odd thing to say, but the samples related to the plumbing in their house, in their fixtures, it is not a representative sample to the water and distribution system.
So if you had a home that had been doing it, and then they put an addition on or did something, that would disqualify them going forward.
If they put a filtration system on, okay, is the common thing. And even if it's at a point of use, if say the oldest fixture in the house and the one that they continuously always sample from is, the bathroom. If they've now redone plumbing, and changed from copper tube into PET, it changes the nature and purpose of that building being sampled. So,
We'll also be changing too with, we have to do like lead service inventories, even though we don't have any actual lead service lines in town, but like goosenecks and stuff like that. The whole criteria for sampling will be changing anyway, right? So, not sure when exactly the sampling will be different, but
we don't add a chemical to prevent that, right?
no,
Prevent lead and copper.
no, yeah, it's not. It's really related to, I'd say, pH probably for copper reasons. Like the lower pH, you might see an uptick in copper a little bit, higher a little lower, but as far as lead, it really has to do with the house. So it doesn't have much to do with the water.
I just stumbled exactly what I had it here. So we're going to talk about a few breaks and leaks that we've dealt with in the couple of weeks, starting on, July 1st. Text responded to a call that came in from a Young Ave resident. Upon arrival, quickly confirming that a 6-inch AC main had failed, in a major way. They were able to isolate the 2 valves that turn off that dead end section, actually taking care of the water loss in record time. I think we were there within 20 minutes and it was off. Didn't alleviate any of the issues created by the flow at that rate, but definitely contributed to saving the water. So we actually had enough people here on that day, thankfully, even being a holiday week, that we had, half of the crew stop working, isolating the road, getting marked out the big safe while others actually went out in the system and started answering the multitude of calls that came in for dirty water, low pressure, cloudiness, and everything, the whole gamut. Based on the flow rates at the time of all the wells that were running, the booster pump that came on, and the tank drop, the flow rate at that break is estimated to be around 2,025 gallons a minute. To a large fire pump in town.
Yeah, right.
The difference with the fire pumps is we're there. We know it's going to happen. We plan for it, and we strategically put employees and technicians in certain areas that we know have been affected in the past by operating a particular pump. With this, it was sporadic all throughout town. The issues that still continue to come in are residents weren't home because of the holiday week. They weren't using a ton of water because it was during the day, most people were at work. So any disturbances that may have been in the street takes a while to get into their homes because the residents typically don't use a lot of water and time it over. So we had calls all the way through the week and
People down and out of there and then after the fact.
Yeah, so we've had multiple calls. We've addressed a bunch of systematically flushing the system, working our way to the break, and then responding to calls in the distribution system. So, being a major flow event, it is going to take some time to clean up and continue to respond to, when we get calls. That was Monday, July 1st.
Did we know about that break before the call came in? Due to a dropping?
I had a call from the operator at the same time the first call came in here at the office.
I thought Norton alerts.
We sent an alert out for that.
Yeah, with a leak issue that big, the first time anyone's going to see a water, they're going to know right away.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a simultaneous event.
That's over off of like Green Street, right?
Yeah. The biggest thing is that it's off of the main road between 2 main arteries, plus the sandwich between the tanks.
Yeah.
And the minute that booster comes on, when our tank level drops to a certain level, the booster comes on thinking it's basically being called for a fire. It doesn't know the difference between a failure and a fire, and what it does, what it's designed to do, and an extra push of water. When it's not going to that area, it has to go somewhere else. So it changes the direction of flow or recommended during those types of events.
Another question.
Yeah, sure.
So that's a 6-inch AC line?
Yes.
Is that slated somewhere to be replaced?
It had been discussed. It was not in the 2019 master plan because it's been quite a few number of years that it actually has been dormant and hasn't been an issue. It is something that's now moved to the top of the list. We will be talking with Tara and Ben about getting a cost estimate for it and seeing what can be done. So not only is it 6-inch AC main, and it's problematic based on its depth and location, there are limitations with flushing down there. So there's basically one fire hydrant on 2 roads that feed that area, which was at one point allowed. But there's actually houses that are after the hydrant. So you have no way of flushing them without putting the spacer bar in, which we've done. We've not done a few drills on there. We've got a few questions about putting it in. It also limits you on what you can do for removing the air that is obviously going to be trapped after you have a full drain in that system. So, thankfully, we're going to get into a few homes putting spacer bars and so we can hang out that way. But it definitely can be improved upon and needs to be improved upon. Being the nature of where it is, very close to the reservoir, close to one of the small streams, it is going to be a challenge with the conservation permitting to get it done. So it will be a little more costly than the average side road will be. But again, it needs to be addressed. It will be added to the list and we'll get some cost estimates because we do not currently have one. So,
Okay, thank you.
but, definitely needs to be upgraded. we are actually planning, whether holds out, we're looking to probably just put a base coat on the road. There was probably 40 to 60 feet of road that was disturbed during this, mostly from the heat, from the immense pressure of the brake. It is all sand, most of the road has settled, but obviously the damage to the asphalt still remains, and it's passable right now, but it is not plowable, which will be the concern in just a few months. Once we have the full crew, we'll cut that section out, get a base coat down, and put a skin coat down over that. And go from there. A couple days later, Thursday, July 4th, received a call from the fire department indicating that there was a pipe failure on Bush Street. I actually was able to make a call and get a hold of the on-call tech who was working at the treatment facility, literally right around the corner. He was able to break away, thankfully, and responded within minutes. Thankfully, knock on wood, on Bush Street, right off the plane. Oh, okay. It connects Plain Street and Route 123. Oh, okay. Right near me. Yeah, right around the corner from Street. So thankfully, it wasn't an actual, main failure. It was a large service leak in the condo development. There's probably 5, 6 unit condos at the end of Burke Street, close to Plain. They've been problematic over the years. They have inferior water services on the homeowner side. They were installed probably in the 70s with what we call cool plastic, which is basically very thin wall plastic tubing put together with barbed T connections and hose clamps. It was fine back then. It is not fine now. It hasn't been fine for many, many years. There's numerous areas in town that was allowed at one point or were put in unknowingly. And this is the type of thing that we deal with and respond to. The worst part of this is it's a 6-unit building. It only has one shut off. So there was no way to isolate it, and then all 6 units had to be shut down on July 4th. Residents went for 24 hours or right around there and had to find other means. They did thankfully have a contractor that was able to respond Friday morning. They were on site around 7:30 and said it was everything was 2 hours. So benefit that they have somebody that's willing to respond. I know there's been issues in the past with getting people that wanted to respond, knowing the nature of the work that's there. We've made them well aware that everything there should be upgraded, but it all comes to cost. Everything's either in the parking lot, which obviously is going to be extremely expensive to excavate and dig, or it's actually very close to the houses in an elevated mulch bed. So the houses run parallel to the street, and there's actually 4 or 5 steps that you go up before you enter the level of the home. So just getting a machine into that location, let alone digging it with the other utilities and stuff, it becomes very challenging. So we do not have anything in our regulations like other communities have that require the line replacement on the private side. I know Mansfield does. I believe maybe 1 or 2 weeks and you have to replace the entire service. No one hasn't had anything like that or even discussed anything like that. They could do a lot of towns have that. It seems to be common in other communities, but it's very difficult to enforce that. It's just say, even myself, I don't have a spare $8,000 kickstone. Right. That if I have 1 leak and I can get it repaired for $1,000, but to replace the whole service, is $7,000 or $8,000. There's a big difference there. The average person that, I wonder what some of the other towns do to try to enforce that. Right, property taxes. I'm not sure what they have available or if they have other means of funding available, but I know it's something that Norton hasn't even thought of doing. So it would be a major change if that was ever implemented. We have the opportunity to shut them off if there is a leak, and that's basically what we do now because we don't have the private side. I don't believe that they would either. The following Monday, July 8th, we had a couple texts respond and meet a contractor who was doing a homeowner repair on the service leak. I don't know the side of the road, but it was off of Reservoir Street. After they made the excavation, it was determined that the only way to actually finish the repair was to actually shut the main down. Actually had to cut a section of pipe out, replace a couple valves. To do that, it actually required multiple valves to be closed based on the way that the street was fed because of the iron leak. The repair and the shutdown only took about 30 minutes, which is great. I just didn't turn back on, but the operation of the valves and the changes in the direction of water flow created dirty water, which was isolated to the Grove area. Another alert went out, targeted to the residents just in that particular area, and crews were here flushing, responding to calls systematically. Not every hydrant in front of everybody's house was flushed. A lot of times it was pulled where the drainage was operational because of our problems down there with the drain. So we have a few calls the next day saying, no, I never saw anybody at the hydrant in front of my house. It's not always that simple. A lot of times we have to run hoses, how long it's going to be, or just to control what it's going to be. The area was flushed. Everybody that had calls returned to them said everything was clear. So it did work, but we don't always flush, even if there's a hydrant directly in front of your house. It's just the knowledge of what we do with the system and areas that we know water can go. Well, 3, as you know, to meet the increasing system demands, we had to reactivate well 3. Yep. That well went back online. We was the first full week in June when I was out. Samples were taken prior to and after the reactivation as required by Mass DEP. Everything that was sampled passed, and including PFAS. The reason that the well was taken offline for the first place due to the 1 part per trillion exceeded. The result that we had for June was actually 10.4. 10.4 from 21 from a 21 average that we had back in fourth quarter of 23. That result is very similar to sample results that we took while the well was offline, but those results weren't considered valid because the well wasn't pumping to the system. So very good news, and things could change. The aquifer is still much higher than it has been for this time of year. I wonder if that's, pushing everything down. Whether that's helping or making it worse, it is really hard to tell, but we're glad to see this number. It's great. So it takes a big burden off of the few calls that we've gotten saying, why are you putting that back into the system? Unfortunately, we can't live without that well. So it's comforting to know that, this result for quarter 2, is a passing result. Lastly, we'll talk about manganese. Well 1 continues to be above the DEP action levels. So notices or continued notifications will be required to go out regardless of how much we use that well. And we mentioned before that, we have 2 unfiltered wells, and they're 13 use as needed. As we get into the summer months now, they're running a lot more than they have all winter long. Having unfiltered wells mixing with the treated wells, can create some disturbances in the system where they blend, where they mix. Knock on wood, nothing major has happened other than, these notices that need to go out. We had a conversation, how long ago it was, with Mass DEP, talking about the PMs that were going out, the concerns we had with the PMs, with using postcards for PMs, and with one of the conversations led us to the manganese. So the more we're going to intend on using this location, DEP is really pushing us to do some type of temporary remediation for the iron and manganese. We talked about it before. We've had conversations with DEP Boston. Well 1 is actually in a non-stress aquifer. That's the biggest limitation that we have there is the permitted amount of 201 gallons per minute. The previous administration, as do we, have concerns about spending millions of dollars on a well that's only permitted at 200 gallons a minute. We mentioned again to the DEP representatives that, we'd love to invest money in this location if we could get a little bit more permit out of it. This is non-stress aquifer. We could rely more on it and less on our stress aquifer if possible. And this was the first time that we actually didn't get shut down asking that question. It was recommended that we reach out to the withdrawal people. There's certain people that deal with that in permitting stuff. So actually with the board's permission, I was hoping to start conversations with our engineers So they can get those questions going. See, if we could double the permit there, it would be an immense benefit for the town. We wouldn't have to use it all, but we have the ability to run 400 gallons a minute on a non-stress well. So we could basically take one of our other wells offline, do complete maintenance on it with no worry, no headache.
I'm definitely on board with that.
Where is, well number one? Pine Street, and where is the other well?
The other well that is non-filtered is 3, which is over near you on Newland. And in the center of those is wells 4, 5, and 6 for the treatment plant is about the same.
All 4 of those are the same aquifer. All 4 is the only one correct on, right?
Yeah, so, in years past, when we've asked about it, we know there is a lengthy process to get more from a particular aquifer, almost similar time frame, to permitting for a brand new well. But now that we seem to have a little bit more support from our local DEP office, it may be the time to investigate that.
Now, if we got that, does the well itself have that capacity, no problem?
We have to look at drilling a new well there at some point in the future anyway. Again, if you're going to invest in what you have and you can increase it and we can build or design a treatment facility there, this is when you start the process going. We would also like to, again, with the board's approval, investigate a temporary solution. Because we know it is going to take time. If we get an approval for a withdrawal increase, that'd be wonderful. If we don't, if we had a temporary unit there, like a trail unit, I know Steve probably knows a lot more about these than I do. There are some concerns about what we would do with the waste that's created, so the actual minerals, the iron manganese that's removed. Based on the location there, we don't believe that we can design lagoons to drying beds like we have at the water treatment facility. So there will be some question about if that has to be pumped and trucked to a facility, if it could go to the lagoons that we already have at our existing treatment facility, and just add it into the drying beds and go through the process there.
To that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of logistics that need to be worked out, even for a temporary system. So I know that's the reason why nothing has been acted on in the past, not just the permitted limitation. So that was something we wanted to talk about tonight. We have not talked about this with Tara. I know she's probably scratching her head because she hasn't heard about it. But I wanted to run it by the board first, make sure.
So how come it got rated for 201 gallons in the first place? So that's before you signing it, that is way before me. So you don't know whether it's really the original well studied, you really have no clue.
I don't even know if I could drum up that information.
And how do you know it's in stress aquifer?
We've been told it.
Okay.
All right, okay, I get it. Oddly enough, when the water treatment facility was in the process of being built, when I was interim super, Mass DEP Boston representatives came here and were doing an overview of everybody's permit. And they actually asked us why we wouldn't use that well more if we had the opportunity to, and use wells 4, 5, and 6 less, because they're in stress aquifer. There was a disconnect between the local office and the main office that they didn't even realize we were halfway through building the water treatment facility there. So once that was explained to them, it was noted in their findings and went through with the full permitting as the board.
So what do we need to do in order to go to the next step? We need a motion, we need something, or just
I want to head out from you guys that you're okay with it, that we can ask Weston Sampson to come up with a design. Obviously, it's going to be cost incurred by them. Just to see what options we have in the past we could go down with, to move forward. Yeah. The temporary trail is great if it works, but it's temporary. The next thing is to see if we can have conversations with all permanent people and just feel them out. If we get support from our local office, I think that's going to go a long way. We hate to lose that head nod from them. I think that's the next step. It may take a while for this process to take place, but again, if we're making strides and moving in the right direction, that's what we need to continue doing. Yeah, I'm on board with that. There are other things that are looming, like the treatment facility is required for well 3 because of the season, and by 2027 is when they're going to start enforcing the new MCL for the PFAS, which is the 4 parts per trillion. So that's going to trigger more than likely, what's the date, everyone knows, I believe it's 2027. That's when everything's really gonna fill up. So it'd be nice to have this already in the works.
Yeah.
And more than likely design a facility there that's gonna meet that new criteria.
Which we're gonna have to get on in the next year or two, if that's the case.
100%. But knowing that this is obviously has a lot of zeros attached to it, it's more than likely going to become a capital improvement project, so it's not something I'm comfortable with just going to Western Branch and saying, hey, let's go on this. I want the board to be aware of the impact of the cost. And I assume there will be support, but I'm not going to move.
So when you're asking two things, to A, have an interim treatment work, and second is to investigate the increase in yield.
Correct.
And subsequent treatment work. Okay, fine with me.
Okay, so good. I appreciate that.
Well,
Are you okay with that, Tara?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, okay, thank you.
It seems to me. Actually, yes, that brings me to the end. I don't know if I missed anything. I think I have it. And that's on the road.
you can check on us.
I guess I didn't get that, so, all right, that's on you.
We are sending out this week a postcard for a PTHM exceedance on Richardson Ave. Kind of the same old story, water age, dead end main on our system on the far end of town.
Could you show me on a map where that is?
Absolutely. Right over in that corner. Yeah.
This point here, as compared to, this is the center tank, this is the cottage elevated tank, the big new one, and the well. The treatment facility is here. Okay, so you can see there's a service mode pad on the system, which is why there's the highest amount of water gauge at this one location. We have, thankfully, the other issue area that we used to have was
Oh, up there, somewhere.
Yeah, there we go. So these ones here are the ones that we had the issues with, and obviously by mapping, the limitations. You know, they are not loops. There is no way to create a loop because they go into other communities, other towns and cities. We've been able to modify what we do for quarterly flushing. We do low flow flushing in any areas that we see concerns with drops individuals. We've been pretty successful with the Dean Street area. We've 2 or 3 quarters now. We've had that well in a row. Yeah. We're going to try. We're going to try something different with the next round of flushing. Historically, we always take all of the PTHM and ATA samples on the same day. It's not required, but it makes it easier for the lab. It makes it easier for our sample techs to do it. We're going to attempt to stagger the rounds and do a few locations on one day with a round of other samples, and then give us a little bit more time to flush other areas, let it settle out, and take those. As long as it's within the second month of the quarter, we're technically okay with that as our permit. For the additional times we have to flush that other area of town, we're going to try a few different things and see if we can improve the water age in that area. The biggest thing is this town was designed with oversized mains and oversized tanks, all focused on fire protection based on as the town grew, that was the main focus. Water quality came second. Now it's flipped. Water quality is number one. Fire suppression is second, but still very, very high on the importance. So we have a 16-inch main that runs down East Main Street, goes to a 12 on Old Colony Road. The drainage structure that's out in the state road can't handle a full flush on a 16-inch main. It's not designed for that. So we do leapfrogging of hydrants. We find areas inside roads that we can dump this up large quantities of water, and that's slowly going away. As houses are developed,
you know, people putting houses where we never thought houses could go. So we strategically designed new names and hiding locations based on where we would love to flush. And I can tell you in pinpoint, each one has been filled in by a house lot. You know, it's unique, you know, the building in town has changed. But our biggest limitation is not flushing. You know, capacity is next after that. So, we do have,
We're working with Weston Sampson on getting a tank mixer and aerator at our Cottage Street location. Help with that also. So I expect your Red Mill residents to be getting a postcard in the next few days, so I'm sure there'll be.
Well, the reason I asked you where this is located is so I can literally demonstrate to them as far away from them as possible, not that they're gonna believe me. Yep, it is.
and other sample results that we've taken in the core of the town, sample results for both CPHM and HA5 are half or lower than the 80 MCL. So it's definitely, it's an age-related problem. You know, the furthest most point is the system. We've talked with DEP, they've tried to give us other similar things that we're recommending to other communities as far as automatic hydrants that flush. We set a timer. They turn on at 2 in the morning and flush based on the locations there. It's surrounded by wetlands, it's surrounded by power lines, and there's a few homes in the area that are lower than the roof. So you physically need to be there when you're flushing those hydrants, just so you direct it and monitor where the water goes. And it's not something that you can set up for an automatic dispersal at 2 or 3 a.m. And I don't feel comfortable doing that anyway. You know, if there's ever a malfunction, by the time you know about it, it's going to be a low tank level. That's just not something I feel comfortable letting be attached to the system.
That's something that attaches to the fire hydrant anyway, so you're also taking away an access point for fire.
Yeah. Unless we put in a dedicated connection to some, with some other type of device, but typically it's something that connects to the hydrant. Too much vulnerability, in my opinion, to add something like that to the system. If you had a perfect scenario, if it was a city and it was placed directly in front of the drain, you know, maybe it's an option. The limitations that we have with our system and the way it was designed, I just don't think it's good. So, I believe Carol may have an update on the tank mixer, area as far as the time frame goes. And, you know, we're also looking at, capacity studies, they're probably still on that, to see if when we replace the elevated tank at Cottage Street, to fill in with a smaller tank, you know, may benefit the town. Yes, you know, right now, we continue to roll those tanks based on changes of the set point. And, you know, it would be an option to go with a smaller tank when we replace. I don't know that. No.
Thanks, guys. The next one is Lynn.
Is he here?
Hi, how are you?
Am I up?
Sure. You absolutely can be up if you want. What's your name and,
Yeah, Nick Reuter on behalf of the Sherman State Group. We're here to discuss the multifamily project that we've been proposing in Springfield Ave. Obviously, the sewer is a big part of it. Recently, we're denied by the planning board. We have appealed that decision, and I think the town's somewhat understanding they'll likely lose on appeal. There was a couple of hot point items. Is it helpful I just throw a quick map, or is that sure?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought. Yeah. So, so this is the parcel here. We went through a couple iterations. We go to Form A at one point. We went into multifamily to take advantage of the village commercial zone that was overlaid here a few years ago. These parcels are not part of it. It's this kind of oblong triangle shaped project. We proposed 3 multifamily structures, total of 72 units. You know, the town, obviously conservation was a big part of that. You know, we're in the buffer quite a bit. We did get full conservation approval for the layout. During the application, obviously, we had a lot of concern with butters, a lot of traffic in the area. The views and the tree cutting was a real hot topic for them. They didn't like all three parcels being developed at one time. We took away this building and said, you know what, we'll leave this for a later date. So we went back with two, is now 60 units. And, you know, they were unsure how they should account for this land, I guess, in the future. Nothing was really said at the planning board about what to do with it. It was a little after the fact. There was denial that was issued. Obviously, being sensitive to the neighbors' concerns at that time. Part of this project was bringing sewer down the street. That was a big part of the project. So after the denial and after our appeal, the town did approach us and said, you know, we read the regulation that there was no affordability. The town said, you know, you need to include 10%. This is again after the fact. And we said, okay, we can consider 10%. They asked us to extend a sidewalk to the tip here as well. Part of the sidewalk that could certainly be worked into the design. They then asked us to essentially deed the land to the town, this leftover land. And for us, that's financially infeasible unless there are some trade-offs somewhere. And the big thing, as you guys know, the sewer infrastructure guys, it's a big nut for only 60 units. To put that sewer down there, the gravity sewer is extremely expensive. The state road makes it 10 times more expensive, just through police night details, all that sort of stuff you have to do. So, you know, we had planned on, once this was approved, to come back to you folks and say, you know, we really need a force main to be considered. It's just easier construction. You have the grade here for gravity. You might, but financially it's just infeasible for this level of expansion. You're not servicing enough things to justify the cost. Particularly getting it down to 60 units, and particularly asking us to donate this and foregoing any financial offset we might hope to enjoy or offset the cost of the infrastructure. So he said, I can consider this, but we really have to look strongly at the force main being viable. That's a much more cost-effective construction out of the state road. It's in the right of way, it's in the layout, but the level of construction, the police detail that's required, the resurfacing of the road, you guys know, there's a lot of utilities that are going in and out of that road. It's going to require a total overlay to go right down the middle of that road. It just doesn't make financial sense whatsoever to do that. If a force main is approved or at least contemplated, it shaves that construction cost by half, probably. We could then say, okay, it is feasible, we could restrict this property. I'm not saying you deed it to the town, that's most of the concern about what they're willing to do relative to what can be agreed to. Can you restrict it to be not developed for a period of time? Possibly. Can you say not residential, maybe some commercial? Possibly. So we've kind of agreed to take that to another discussion, so long as the feasibility of the offsite is something that is on the table. So that's basically all. I'm not an engineer. I just represent the owner. It's a viable project. If we can come up with some solution for the sewer that makes it feasible, we can consider working with the town on restricting it or potentially donating it. It depends on what principals decide. The 10%, we can financially make the project still work. Obviously, that helps the town. It doesn't push you into the fast spot.
This is 10%
affordable
housing.
Right.
This is not a 40B, right?
Not 40B.
So you're not bound to have to do that. You're just trying
You're not. That was our argument. But, it puts the town in a tougher spot. Everyone's trying to stay below or above that 10%. And this, without 10%, I understand it puts you behind the eight ball a little bit. It would make more sense to keep it status quo, keep it 10%. We have the Oasis in Plainville right down the road, which is a 40B, 25%. So we manage these things, we build them all the time. We understand what that takes to manage and make work. If we can make these other things fit into this basket of projects, I think can move forward. And right now, it's the feasibility of the sewer, us working with you guys to see if that's something that you can support. Obviously, it's an expense that we would shoulder as a project. We look to you for some sort of offset in fees. That's something we can figure out down the road. But is the feasibility of force main in this doable? Now, we just did this in Plainville, and it was for a single-family subdivision, below 65 blocks. It was just as much flow, just as much length. The town had to put in a dummy line for future expansion if they wanted it. That was easily accommodated in the trench. Same thing can be done here. Whether there's a stub to go down Reservoir, or we just stub off wherever this goes to continue down Mansfield. Those dummy lines can be in a future expansion. And I know folks don't want to be told to tie into the store. I understand that. That's because there's no thing, there's no expense. But they do fail. In our experience, tying into a force main is a hell of a lot easier for a homeowner. You know, you can work that line around different things. You just buy the grinder pumps yourself when you need it. The tying is a lot less expensive to perform and easier to do. For a homeowner, it is easier because of the tying. It's still subject to the fees or whatever those obligations are. But the physical work of doing it is a lot easier to understand as well. So some benefits to the force main. We have done it in municipal roads. I haven't done a gravity in forever, not because gravity didn't work, because all those factors kind of go into play. And the force main allows you to get sewer a lot of places they typically can't. So in this case, I think the grade would work. It's just not feasible to go through gravity, given, you know, what the expectation is in the state road, given the state of the road, and the project you're trying to support. It's not large enough for that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just wanted to kind of appreciate you guys giving me the time.
And this is, regardless of what it is, would go south to link up with the West Main Street.
That's been our discussion since. Right. I know there was discussion of anyone reservoir. There was a project up here probably before you guys that may or may not go forward. But it seems feasible here. Again, you can do the stubs here and you can go down reservoir a lot easier in the future if the sewer commission decides that's what they want to do.
The limiting factor that I see, you know, other than, you know, the cost to each individual resident by having to put a new one system or similar in, you know, that's above and beyond the actual connection to the street.
Sure.
You know, you mentioned going down the side of the road, staying out of the paved area. I know there's been some conflict with that. I know there's a gas line that's down that side of the road that's not on a lot of plans.
It is on one of them that I know, look at that.
The separation between that and staying out of the road might be difficult in a few areas. The biggest thing is, you know, if a private contractor installs a sewer or water line down the main road, you have to provide stubs to each property. So you're still talking about digging trenches across the road to, you know, facilitate connections to the outside of the road.
Regardless of whether it's a force main or gravity?
It has to be provided to all properties fronted by
No,
structure.
just a question. Is that what you're assuming, you're saying is the state requirement or the town?
That's the town.
Okay.
Obviously, you know, all the requirements can be absolutely waived.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That's something that's there. So that still puts you with a major impact to the paving. And then Mass DOT is going to determine if they want that full road reclaimed. Reclaimed. Usually with multiple smaller trenches, depending on how far apart they are. Sometimes you deal with it, sometimes they won't. District 5 historically has wanted full curb to curb. Anytime we've done anything like that, if anytime you touch it, and they want everything upgraded. Anything you come across, we ran into that with the they want it up to current standards. So if you run across some clay flake, no, that's gotta go. You're putting industrial.
You're talking about if it's a drainage structure that you're going under or around,
and if you have to go near it, around it, move it. They want it.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. You know, I'm not an engineer, but I think the shoulder you avoid a lot of. I know the gas. I've seen the plan, and it's hard to see the real world what the gas cost that's going to require, and the insurance for them to be there while you're digging. They're going to go crazy. We've done that. It's not impossible, but it's certainly management thing. You have qualified people doing it. So that would certainly be our intent.
I'm just curious. So the original presentation to the planning board, were you part of that?
Yeah.
So when I talked to Paul, the planning director, I know he kind of came on late in the process. I don't think he, until after the planning board denied, even knew that there was a potential sewer line going down there. And I know that I feel like the planning board, I gotta stay here, but you know, they're hurting themselves and the town what their job is as far as getting sewer on a large portion of Mansfield Ave that residents aren't going to have to pay for until they tie into it. It's not like a betterment issue where there's an assessment on their house that they're paying right away. It would be basically not free be sewer, but it's something where they don't have to tie into it until they have to tie it, until they need to tie into it based on a failure of their own system. So it was just odd to me that they shot down a project that was gonna provide sewer, and, you know, gravity sewer is obviously preferable for us, and why they would try to, you know, obviously, we know what you're saying, as far as wanting to eliminate the gravity sewer, they want part of this parcel when it's making it so you can't build a gravity sewer. It just doesn't really make much sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna speak to it.
No, I know, it's just,
I present.
and funding for the departments is not the same. You know, we're not funded out of the general fund. They're, you know, the town would be getting that, but it doesn't benefit the sewer department, you know, so it's like, that's, I feel like the trade-off should have been talked to us before this, not by you.
No, I hear you. I think a lot of their positions were, you know, figure out the sewer. Couldn't be the case. I agree with you. It's always availability and as soon as feasible, but, you know, the project first and then, I don't love either, so I hear you. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's feasible. Again, the sewer department is not uncommon. We've done this before. You know, staying out of the state road would be great, like, for everyone, just for trash. No, Jesus, we're gonna take.
Do you happen to know what the capacity is going to be on this newly proposed smaller version?
As far as the sewer goes?
Water generation.
Well, that's great, no, 14 million, fine.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because there is option C, which hasn't been looked at before because of the original footprint of this design, and that would have to go back to Western Hampton for review of running that down, making that turn on Reservoir Street with a force main, and running it down to Rumford Road. You know, there is another development that was talking about doing something, we don't know if that's still in the works, maybe, I don't know. Okay.
I mean, they did send us the revised plans.
Okay, I know they were modified multiple times as well.
Probably still spending money on engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're still in the tab and rest of the year.
Oh, for sure, right. You know, I'm just wondering if capacity-wise, if the Rumford Road Station would be able to handle what's being presented here and possibly that other development, because we at least can't shoot them out.
Because it was right at the cusp with the other guy.
Okay, right.
You also have Elm Street. You can turn Fourth Street out in the Elm that way.
Right. So we get a lot of.
But that's another unknown.
Don't know.
It just comes.
Okay.
I'd rather have the other project run up and back of Silver Truck property. I'm gonna unfortunately down the side of the road and connect to this from Mansfield.
Right,
Ave.
exactly.
That's what I do for it happen. You have that whole corridor of Mansfield Ave, so we.
So, I mean, I know Western Hampton, you guys have two third parties. Now, they can do their engineering, I guess, but it's up to you guys, you know, within the regulation, and obviously it's maintained and own this. You know, I know Plainville was a little reserved when we first did it. They really had not a lot of new ones. I've been doing ones forever because you can't find tracks in the traffic sewer anywhere. It is a burden on a homeowner to buy it. It's a pretty simple system. I think it fails and not put it in. It's $7,000 per thing. I get it.
The other critical of the variance, we have the ones in another section of town, and the original homeowners that were there understood exactly what they were. As those people moved down, new people moved in, they just understand that the power flush goes away.
Right.
If the alarm goes off, they don't know what it is, and then when power goes off. There should be a requirement that you have some type of emergency backup system, you know, a house generator. So now you're getting into the tens of thousands, you know, not only in.
Yeah, I agree. And for Plainville, we're building new homes, and everyone was aware, but you have us educated, to your point, you're right. And I would say 70% of people did generators because it would come off through bad winters, and it was like, no time to do it, for a lot of different reasons, and that obviously makes living a lot easier. You can cycle those with a generator, you know, like you need to know what a generator is, and I'm not going to know that. So I understand that. But obviously for our project, it would have backup generators, you know, it's a commercial project, but it's manned 24/7, so the operation for that is easier, but to the point expanding it and making it for the benefit of everyone else, It's not, as typical.
Do you have a full set of plans showing the potential force main?
I think I.
Or is that something you could generate?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering, if it was the first thing that we saw.
Well, I think the one we did here was the gravity,
Okay.
which is right smack dab in the middle.
Yep.
Which I hate, traffic alone is a pain there, but, with this, and then we have the force main, there's the gap line here.
Okay.
And whether this is suitable or not, again, I'm gonna rely on the engineer, but it's in the shoulder, it's out of the road, you are in the state layout, so there are easements, there are driveways, off the path, or all those things. I know the state doesn't require you to cut across, the town may, and that obviously would add a bit of a difficult, hardship to it. We did it in Plainville, for some reason we didn't want the stubs, because we don't want people randomly tying or something, I forget the history of that. We didn't do that in Plainville, we could easily do it for the folks here. And then it runs down to the intersection on Reservoir. Right here, so that the rest of the park will go this way. We have a manhole here, this is just pinned out, so wherever it could go. This is still out of the road, but in the layout, plenty of room here. And again, I understand this one of the things, they own it and not deal with that sort of thing, I get that. But you can easily come out of this manhole and go this way. So it offers some flexibility, I think. Or like you said, you can leave a dedicated stub. You have to leave a stub, right. And yeah, that was a big top. Homeowners didn't want to be forced to tie in. And I think we quelled those, the planning board was clear that's not a requirement. So that did calm some folks down. But still, the clearing of the trees and the impact of both of them, that's something you have to be sensitive to. And preserving that corner is kind of what the board felt was appropriate. Even though it's all the way built, I understand. Trust me, I understand. People wanting to control what other people do with land they don't know. I don't understand it at all. So it's multifamily. Obviously, we think we're a good operator owner. We don't sell these things. We're a member of the town. We don't sell it to whoever. We manage these things for the lifetime. So we think it has merit. Again, it's up to you guys if it's something you think is feasible. If it is, we think we can make an agreement with the town, and we think we'll refuse the citizens of these those who are most immediately concerned, and have a project they can start construction. So, I would say the biggest issue is not having the subs in this instance is just because now if someone across the road wants to tie in, they have to get it. It's not like it's, one of our main roads that we could waive them and they can pick it up, no problem. Could you directionally drill it? Too much shouldn't know too much.
Yeah, we've actually had some receivables. We did, from water, service improvements there, there used to be a double main there. We dug it, frankly, on the inside of the road, and we had rock refusal in the middle of the road.
So you tell me this is even more infeasible than I think.
No, I've never heard of it.
But I'm pretty sure I got told for free. What could be?
And that was one of the big drivers when we were looking at the cost benefit analysis of the gravity. Remodeling.
Yeah, the model refusal.
Because they were concerned that we had
And the
flats with the gravity.
Yeah, I mean, in the force main too, we did it in place, not to keep referencing that. There was a few pump stations. Well, there's gravity, one force main out. What's the point of that? Now, the town has to maintain a pumping station versus, people are responsible for their own pumps. So if the force main is designed properly, there's no reason it should matter. Then you gotta make sure it has capacity. If we were to do this, you have to have so many units, you gotta flush it in order to run properly. So, we're certainly aware of all those things where the pump is running and functioning with right capacity. But as far as sizing goes, like I said, we can put a dummy pipe in there, whether it's 2 to 3, whatever that capacity is, or whatever the town thinks it can extend. I think sewer ends up past the reservoir. This Mansfield has sewer eventually, does it not? It does pass. Way past. So the expansion on Mansfield would what, go to the reservoir, we're thinking?
The limitation is the bridge.
Getting that throw right.
There has been no interest in anybody traversing that, which would be great, but
DVT and the state, so many things are.
But there's another avenue for that. They could go downstream and retreat,
Go around and
make the route that way.
Yeah.
Could you provide a better set of plans showing layouts for,
Yeah.
sewer manholes, know that this is something we can look into,
Yeah,
you know, a little bit deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Our board chair, unfortunately, isn't here tonight.
yeah, I know there'll be random cleanouts, but, you know, the need for the huge manholes is not, force main is a lot less infrastructure.
Right.
But yeah, we certainly do that, because,
Yeah, it's definitely something we can look at and definitely discuss. I think the biggest thing is gonna be making the residents that are fronted by it aware of the additional cost to them. So not only is there a cost, to connect, when they are required to, either when they fail, when they sell, or if they're trying to upgrade their home and if, you know, they can't do a Title V expansion, you know, not only are they gonna have the contractor to do the work,
right,
you know, pay for the connection, but now they have that additional 7, 8, maybe
Right.
5 to 8, depending on what type of,
yeah.
pump system you go with.
I mean, I have to think it's cheaper than it was tested, but,
Oh, definitely.
I mean, have you thought of sand filters in this area, or what are they?
Very. It really depends
Either
on.
40 grand or 20?
And
Kind of dirt you got.
what do you hit?
Yeah, right, you're
You do
right.
monitor systems and all that.
This wouldn't fall under the 7-year time, I need it would,
No,
Privately funded,
not privately funded.
It would fall into the failing of
Mhm.
Title V. I don't know about,
Failure of septic they have.
I don't know about selling of the property, but I know it would fall into
If it fails, it's transfer of ownership.
Well, if they sell the property, they have to do a test on it.
Yep.
To see if that's, the property to do it.
I would say more than not, most of the ones in that area, have quite a bit of issue. So it'll be on the fence on how to fuel them.
I mean, is there any state funding for, not saying this specifically, but future expansion of this, or is that just a red tape thing that you have to have a project for it? Yeah, I get the idea that Dan saying, you know, if the state wants infrastructure, they want all these housing and stuff, you need infrastructure, so it can't always fall on us, but sometimes it makes them feasible.
The right back
It doesn't matter, so.
I'm
I'm not saying for this one, always long of a
Right.
process, but.
When we did the Force Main, we wanted to put the cross road connections.
Oh, for sure. If it's not, now you're talking about each person, if you're on the other side of the road and needs to do a connection, that contractor now has to get a state road opening permit, you know, and go through that. You know, the permitting and stuff isn't expensive, but the amount of paperwork and stuff is involved.
And the people that are on the side, the same side as on, it's already off enough, so they wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yep, yeah, we would just.
You still put it like a, sometimes.
Still
Yeah,
can't, yeah, basic to the property line, to keep it outside of the.
Right, right. So in the future, if someone does, they're not big on the road and on either side.
Maybe not cutting,
Right.
we could call them low pressure.
This would be a low pressure for us, yeah.
Either, so you're talking about E1s type pumps at the property itself.
Right.
You know, the land itself. That other E1s could be.
Yeah, that'd be the only way to do it, for something.
We don't get confused there. You know, if you put in a, 30 horsepower pump station, and then people want to tie into it, then
Yeah, you need one of them.
we want to do that.
No, Steve, like, I know you don't know the exact distance, but the distance to the, what is it, causeway that goes over Reservoir Street. If there was a expansion later on, could that all be serviced by E1 to the center of town?
So the facility plan, that is a need there. So right now, there was a gravity sewer to about where this property is, to the top of the hill there. And then the rest of the properties to the, up until you got to the causeway, we're gonna pump up. So there's gonna be a low pressure sewer coming from the causeway up. And then you discover the middle was going out free. And then Smith Street on the other side was gonna pump over against the trailer park. So they were gonna go in 3 different directions.
Right, so, but now there wouldn't be a gravity main at this Reservoir Mansfield Ave intersection. So would you be able to run low pressure on a dedicated line from the reservoir all the way down Mansfield Ave to the center, to West Main Street, center of town?
Yeah,
You would, like, it's just a straight run, I would think it should be doable.
And you would say a dummy line,
Yeah,
right, versus oversizing capacity, because that's different. But- All right, so I can put this on more official paper.
Yeah.
Than it
Yeah,
is.
definitely.
Get that turned around pretty quickly as we can, and we'll know we're in discussion, and find a way to do it. Oh, I got, any questions, let me know.
There'll be some coming up.
Yeah, I hear you.
So,
Thank you again for the
yeah,
time.
formal submission gets submitted to us and Western Wisconsin reviews it. That's the.
Because it's a modification of what they've already reviewed, we would want them
Okay.
to give it an employment at least. I don't know if it'd be a full peer review, that'd be something you would have to determine how much time it's gonna take to review.
Well, can I ask a question, just a developer question? Is there a reason you work for Western Wisconsin?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Just working with Dan Campbell versus having one engineer spend 3 hours and you have your different ideas of how you want to see it. Is there a reason you guys can't talk ahead of time?
We have.
Okay,
Well,
all right.
that's all. We
Sometimes
had, we did a big
the reason
meeting and.
No, there was a lot
We met.
Okay,
of conversations that went on about this originally,
right,
and I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we, and I feel like we were there, we had come up with some options, you know, we talked about the things that were driving the finance, so it's totally, you know, this has always been understanding that,
yeah,
you know, it's gotta work economically, you
right,
know, it's
right,
move much.
yeah,
So, and when we talked a lot about shallowing up the gravity sewer, maybe just coming part of the way with the gravity
That
sewer, and then
intersection,
get to that intersection, which, that way we can open up the majority of those homes to a gravity sewer,
right,
and then consider pressure the rest of the way. So, and we went through a lot of that, and that's what you guys, it's a stumbling block. I never heard back, I don't think we ever heard back 100% if they had a model that worked. They felt pretty good about it, though. They said, oh, we, you know, because we were showering on significantly.
Stop talking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that, so I guess that goes back to quick, so there was a lot of back.
Okay, all right.
So there's been a lot of it,
Yeah,
and we can continue that.
okay,
What is it, what they call it, value?
Yeah,
Value option?
yeah, they asked us to do some value engineering to see.
See what we could, you know, eliminate and make it, yeah, make it effective for everybody.
okay. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We got electronic copies I can, forward you to you as well, Steve.
Yeah, you don't have to, I really don't get it. I'm not, that's what it is, but you'll look at it first and then.
I guess we're gonna write the Western Wisconsin, because I don't think,
Yeah, it doesn't appear we, right, they, so we've been having conversations with them, this actually started, almost a year ago. When we first sold it to Milford, there's been modifications to this design since then. So this is a development that they're looking to put in, over on South Worcester Street down the road here. They have an easement, so they can create a water main loop. The newest design, the loop really isn't a full loop, because the loop kind of comes in at the halfway point, so there's still some dead ends, so we've had some discussions with them, pointed out some obvious changes that needed to be made to the proposed plans with, differences between, fire hydrants, with, you know, at least one freeway cluster for the connection to the street, and then one could possibly be a hot tap. We still need to verify our existing valve locations, which will prove that both connections need to have three-way valves, so that they're compliant with the street. And then there was, a couple other things with separation of the utilities. So these were, I don't know how many units, were they triplexes?
I think they were trying.
Okay, so there were multiple triplex units that were gonna be there. Based on the size, they were gonna have, a 2-inch domestic fire line going into each unit and a 1-inch domestic water line. So based on the plans that were presented, everything was very close. It didn't appear that it was gonna meet our, you know, recommended 10-foot separation or the minimum required 6-foot. So they were going back to take, a look at that and modify the plans, so they could present it. We gave them the opportunity to come in tonight if they wanted to discuss that with the board. And that's probably what we told them. If you can't make it, we understand, but this agenda had to go out early because of the holiday. Yep. Next time, when we see them, we'll put them on.
So where is that compared to really,
Right around the corner, like you leave there, you take a left, you go through Harvey Street, the next intersection is southwest, you take a right.
or actually turned in south.
Literally right down on the left from the, large piece of property that's gonna be called, Wading River Estates because it backs up to the Wading River. The original design had some expansion into some of the, conservation land. I believe there was internal habitat that was found, and that's why they're modifying to this newer design. So once we have that, I can just use, again, I have the copies if they're available, we prefer hard copies here for review, but, so if I have those, I can always let you guys know. I have,
So they're going with septic?
they are.
Yeah,
It's a large septic system there.
How many units in total?
30?
I think we're in the 30 or
Black
30.
plus. I think it was maybe 36, I think it was 12,
Okay.
12 buildings, I think. If I remember correctly, but
Pretty big facility.
All right,
And what are they in for, water main and cookies?
it's getting replaced
So
with
that's
an
the,
ARPA project that is conducted on there.
We're in town.
yeah. I'm looking for that.
you still there?
Hey, with us?
There she is.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
All right, time to wake up.
Yep. All right, so the water update, we're just talking about Southwestern Street and East Hodges. So I believe contracts should have arrived, over at, with Frank Upham.
Southwestern East Hodges Tower?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So CC Construction was the low bidder. We went through their contract documents, recommending to sign off on that and send over to Town Hall to fully execute those contracts. And then at this meeting, what we'd like to do is for the commission to authorize either Frank or John, once the contracts come back from Town Hall, that they can issue the notice to proceed letter. So there's signatures for the commissioners, and then there's signatures for Town Hall, where there's little stickies noting that.
We need a motion just to approve Frank to sign it?
Usually you do.
Contract?
So those are contracts, and then once they're fully executed by Town Hall, the next step is to have a notice to proceed letter issued.
So we need a motion to approve the contracts and then a motion to approve Frank to sign.
Yes, two motions.
Motion.
Who's signing the contract? Are they all signing the contract?
Usually there's 3 lines for each
Well,
commissioner.
this is the place for each of you to sign.
Right.
So you make a motion based on the recommendation to award the contract, sign it. I think they've already made the motion, right? Because we already did the intent to award. That's how you got to this point. So now it's just to sign the contracts. So you sign them, and then you make a motion that, once it's fully executed by the town, Frank has the authority to issue the notice to proceed. So you don't have to get another vote from the commission. That's just the next step.
It'll allow for a quicker turnaround.
Okay.
All right, so, are we approving CC Construction for this project?
Yes.
We have some,
You're approving the contracts. You already voted. You already accepted them based on a recommendation.
okay, so we have,
Set the blue contract.
so be it. Well, that's what we've done, figure it out, I don't know what the motion should be.
Well, the motion is to approve the Southwestern Street, East Hodges area water main improvement contract with, what's the name?
CC Construction, okay, CC Construction Inc. Well, I guess that's the motion.
All right. So moved.
I think you have the second.
Okay, you motion it, I second it.
Okay, good, okay.
All there? Aye. Aye, well, so we have to do that for one up here.
There's 3 copies.
It's a free
No,
contract.
there's just 7 copies of it, okay.
And
Okay.
what's there's only 2?
Are there only 2?
Yes, thanks.
For the cover letter?
Here's only to be put, what we got. And then I have a motion to, authorize Frank or John to sign the contract?
The notice to proceed.
Notice to proceed, okay.
I second that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
All as well? Now we sign.
So the last question is if the board wants to waive the recommendation to have have legal counsel review that contract before execution. It has been done in the past, but it is still an option there for a sign off by the legal counsel.
Why would we wanna waive that?
Because they take a year.
They
take all the time, and it's the same one that they always look at.
It is the same.
I move
contract.
to make a motion to waive the, legal counsel necessary to review these contracts.
Second that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, well,
How about that for, expedition?
That is quick.
Okay. It changed my mind. Sign here, sign here.
It appears we only have, 2 copies, Sarah, so is there supposed to be 3?
Let me just check the cover letter I sent.
I got it, April.
Actually, Deepak sent.
2 copies.
Yep, and then so we just need a, one copy goes to the, if you guys need an extra copy, that's fine, but, we just need the signature pages back.
Okay.
Or one, like a scan of it, that's fine, we don't need the originals. You
How many
just, I think
got
the cover letter indicates.
Somebody's got to put in all the dates.
Yes, once
Okay.
the dates get finalized, once the final signatures, I think, and usually it's, I think James is the last one to sign usually.
the second page, owner's council, we just waived that, right? Don't have to
Yes.
worry about that.
Yep.
Only the one page we have to sign.
The first sign here.
Yep.
No, yeah, the first sign here.
So Frank, on that cover sheet, signed by Dave Burke, it just says retain one copy for yourselves. If you want one and town hall wants one, you just need to make an extra copy for yourselves, but then one copy goes directly to the contract.
And I'm quoting, so you keep on zero, I think,
Yeah,
to the contractor, and he can scan them for us.
good job.
All right, any questions on South Worcester or East Hodges? Okay, great.
When we
Once those-
start,
So, once we have final executed, contracts, we'll be asking the contractor for a schedule for startup and setting up pre-construction meeting and getting through all that. The schedule in the contract documents is to put East Hodges, the goal is to do that first because South Worcester requires temporary bypass. Based on when we might start, they might not be able to finish the entire length. It's several thousand feet more for South Worcester than it is East Hodges. So our intent was to do East Hodges this year. South Worcester started next year in April, and in 2026, do some final paving.
Okay.
We'll do temporary trench paving, obviously in 2025.
okay,
Okay, so the next topic, I know you guys were chatting a little bit about water quality. We have our preliminary summaries ready to go for the aeration study as well as the water storage study analysis. So I think at this point, the goal is to just meet Frank with you, John, Derek, whoever else you want to have in a meeting, and maybe next week or the week after, just set up a time that we can come in and chat through that. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays typically are good on our end, so hopefully maybe we can set up an hour or two block that we can chat about those.
Okay.
So if you can just send us some dates, I know, and hopefully everybody's kind of wrapping up some vacations, and it's still summer though, so it might be tough to get everybody in the room, but that's our goal.
yeah, we'll do our best.
Okay, great. So the schedule for the aeration at the very least is to get it into DEP text at the end of this month, if not early August, depending on when we set up that final meeting with Frank and crew. And then once that's been approved, we'll go out to bid for the aerator, mixer aerator. And then I think the only other thing on my list is we submitted, Steve and I submitted to Frank a few weeks back the general engineering, the next fiscal year FY25 contract. So that's the only thing that's really on my list, unless you have other questions for me.
You have those contracts?
I have them here. So this is 3 copies of the water general contract. It's actually, if you just flip it over, the only place you need to sign,
Okay.
3 lines on it. on the very back. So that's the water, general services,
Do this for now, and then you're gonna have one for sure, also, right?
and we can do them both now. if you want.
Okay. Well, I actually I read them as well. Okay, good. They're both exactly the same except for section 2. That's right, actually. Except I guess the table's different, but that's okay. More or less the same. I make a motion to accept the general engineering contract for the general engineering consultant services related to municipal drinking water issues and assignments for fiscal year 2025. For the Bay of West Wisconsin, for $50,000. I second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Aye as well. You want to just go right again, all right?
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept the contract for Western Sampson for general engineering consulting services related to wastewater issues and assignments for fiscal year 2025 to $50,000.
Second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well.
So that one is, you get it open to the state.
Says, do we have to get Steve Bishop to sign this too, or?
Think so, you should be fine. He might be insulted. Sorry, you may not be.
Yeah. 2 to 3 is minimum, but yeah, you want to insult Steve by missing this.
So there's 3 copies.
Oh, 3 copies, okay, sorry.
Okay, so take the, I'll make these, so do those 3 and then.
Oh, there's 3 on each thing, okay.
Line at the extra page, so you can't just flip it over.
Good job, Steve.
You have to put more information in it.
He's got one more task than I do, I think.
Yeah.
I think that maybe Steve should sign up on these, but maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can reach out to
Yeah.
him, I'm not sure of his availability. Might be just a slight delay.
The bottom one is already signed, let's just do those 2. All right, so these are the 3 water ones. Okay, I'm just gonna leave all 3 with them until they get Steve's signature and the, and whatever else.
That works for me.
Call.
I don't know if he needs to be signed, you may want to ask him, I don't want him to take these,
Yeah, well,
one of mine, if you accept his authority. I don't think he would, but.
and the same, this has that same line for council, because they always have it, and again, all the language that council reviews is the same. Yeah, I think that's the good.
Okay,
All right,
awesome. Tara?
Tara, you with it, you were all set?
I'm all set unless there's other water-related questions for me.
I do have a question. That meeting that you want to have in a week or so, would it be a good enough time to have you or Ben or whoever you want to put in charge to take a look at Young Ave and Pond to get a measurement, just so we can come up with a cost estimate? That was where we said that area. It would be nice to have an idea of what that cost is going to be. We haven't done any small projects just because of the product shortages that we've had with some of the materials, and knowing that the cost was double or triple where it normally would be. But our information that we have on some of the other projects that we did from the 2019 water study, are a little bit outdated, so I can't even use that as a reference. So I'd like to have some up-to-date numbers to kind of get a feel for what that's going to cost to improve. I don't know if we can put on that in the field.
Yeah, if you can just send me a quick email of just kind of where the location is and kind of your limits, even if it's just, intersection to intersection. We'll do an environmental receptors map, take a look and see what might be out there for permitting wise, and give you a little bit more solid number for design through construction.
Okay, great.
And we can go over the more details at that meeting in a week or 2.
Okay. Tara, thank you for your summary and your updates for the report I asked for.
Sure, yep, no problem.
And you're all set for construction admin for water main and South Worcester Street, I assume?
We are, yes. We worked that out, and we have a signed contract as well as funding a few months later, so we're good to go.
Great.
So I'll stay on the call if anything else comes up, but I'll just go back to mute and turn my camera off.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Darren.
Take care.
All right, yeah.
All you.
Excellent. So for the sewer, Holly Road, Norwood generators are in place, up and running. We're done. And the one thing that we are waiting on is just the O&M. We actually got them, made some comments, and sent them back. You want 3 copies?
I put that off to Bruno, he'll be back tomorrow morning just to see.
We're still waiting for them to send us the final edit.
I really didn't read, but I'll let Bruno decide the date he wants to call something around.
Okay. So they had actually submitted this pay rec at the end of June, when they finish the work. So this is for completion of the work with the exception of the retainage. So I'll be asking you to vote on this one tonight. We recommend payment of this. This is $4,750. Again, that brings it to 100% complete, but still holds like 10,400, 5% retainage. And once we have the O&M, that's the last thing. So next month, they'll be asking for their retainage, and then we'll be done with that. So we're recommending payment of this one. The information you need here, payment number 6, and the amount is in there for the Holly Road station.
So I make a motion to accept payment number 6 for $4,750 for the Norwood and Holly Road pump station improvement project. I second the motion, all in favor? Aye. Aye, well, and this is signed by.
And then just by Frank, yeah, so it's,
Yep.
you're authorizing Frank to sign. I think that was the motion.
I still be happy with the.
I'm very happy to have that in place.
So there's 3 copies here, actually, Frank, so however you want it. They don't have the cover letter attached to them. And I'll take one, with me that I can just put in my file. So yeah, so I would expect, at the next meeting to have the recommended release of their change. To find a piece of information. So for Cobb Street, phase 2, that work is complete. The last things they have doing, they put the gate valve in, the sluice gate on the grading. They did the painting, so everything is done, and as of, they're scheduled for 7:30 tomorrow morning, Bruno's gonna meet them out there to take the bypass pumps out and put the station back on the tank. We've got a nice new refurbished wet well. As nice as a wet well can be.
And you off of it?
You could have yesterday, maybe.
Okay.
I still wouldn't. Yeah, no, it's, I haven't seen it. Will Chandler has made some swapping. He's excellent for the small. And, and they did all the testing, and we've gone through the testing results to make sure that so once it's sealed properly, and now they've got a whole new coating on the inside and paint. So it's back up to stuff. They will be submitting probably their final pay rec. And whether we'll release the retainers right away at this point, we'll make sure that there are no punch list items, to actually release the retainers at the same time if we need to talk about that before they process it. So anyway, so Cobb Street phase 1 and 2 are done. I guess we should talk about, phase 3 was the pumps. I know it was in the budget. So we want to talk about moving forward with that. We can get back at. So we probably should just review where these 2 came in, phase 1 and 2, and for the money and what we appropriated, which I think was like $350,000. But we can review that and discuss it. That would be the big one.
You'll have a report based on what was right. Did you update that, and then we can, look what phase 1 and 2 is, and what the budget was, and.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think maybe a memo that it's attached to the to the report that just says
Yeah,
what we've
just
done.
somewhere in the
Something.
middle, to the whole memo, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yep.
So, pay requisition for this guy, I mean, we're not meeting for another month, is that a problem?
No, I mean, you've got 30 days, so I don't know when he's gonna submit it, so as
Well,
of today, they're not.
We ever approve an invoice and then, do a motion later? Has there been? No. Okay. We do it in a red mail bill. We do a resolution and then we finalize it on next meeting. Not looking for a reason to accept it. Well, again, I don't know if it's significant to them or not, the cash flow. I think it is. Okay, fine.
Yep. That's College Street, that's Norwood. So for Elm Street, we basically wrapped up the most recent thing was the whole pump station site and it being at Library Park. We met with the Library Board of Trustees. I think that was prior to the last time we met. And then we met with the Historic Commission. And they were very amenable. Their biggest issue was the fence. You know, it's all about aesthetics for them. So they just asked to see some renderings of what the final site's going to look like. And we didn't want the typical steel fence with the PVC coating. They wanted like a wood fence or something nice. So Frank has already been, and we haven't had a chance to go through some of the stuff you sent. We've looked at some stuff. So anyway, at this point, not don't pose to be a stumbling block. We'll be able to work with them for the site. So we're finalizing the actual site plan. And I expect to have all the plans and specs now that we can add that stuff in, wrapped up next week for delivery to you guys, so that we have something. It's going to sit obviously until and then we'll continue to advance the discussions as we lead up to town meeting. You know, and things that need to have. So it's typically late October, the fall town meeting. It does not appear as though they established a date yet. They are forming, so Mike Units and Paul are working to form a committee, which we've been asking for some time. I didn't get an update, so they were going to have somebody from the select board, somebody from the finance committee, economic development, planning board. And they want someone from this commission also. I know Steve, you've been involved in some of the meetings prior, but
Let me know when it is, I'll make way for it to do.
should we appoint him to this meeting, or does that prevent? Oh, it doesn't matter.
I don't think it really
I don't think
matters.
he would, just because of the whole meeting laws, it's only be one.
Right, it only be one.
So if you're interested in continuing to be involved with that, we'll let you know. And we should try and meet this month with that group and just, I feel like, the last presentation we gave at the select board meeting kind of walks it through, kind of talk it through at a slower pace and just take each piece and say, does this bother you? What do you want to do? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And get the feedback that we've been seeking and go from there. We committed to the residents out there to meet again before the town meeting. So that would be in September. The thought process on our end we talked about was, meet with this committee, get some kind of consensus. I think it would be advantageous to go to town meeting with bids and so you know what the price is at. Either they support it or they don't. So you put the money out there, the bid, you spend that. As long as we feel like we've got the support that we need based on the meeting. Yeah, I mean, everybody's, what is everybody worked up about? They don't trust the number is one thing that's like the last thing they come to me. And, you tell us it's going to be 7 million, but why should we do it? But the first things are what's really going on at 47. you know, you're saying if you build it, they will come, we gotta get past that. So we gotta,
Yeah.
you know, we keep trying to get momentum with 47 Elm, but it's, I don't know how you do it because, you know, we keep talking about Devco, but they're just an interested buyer. They don't have to sell us anything, but we're trying to get some more out of them. It's, you know, like Paul was saying, it's kind of the chicken and egg thing. They want the town to commit to build the sewer, the town wants them to say, if you build the sewer, you know, that is gonna make this project, you know, more promising to us. So, you know, getting past that continues to be challenging, because we can meet all we want until we can't say that somebody signed something. And we need to get people past that, that it isn't if you build it, they will come. I mean, it isn't, I mean, I think the people that support it are convinced, you know, Paul is definitely convinced that this will make it possible, whether it's Devco or somebody else. That's why we went for this grant, that's why we sought this money. So, there's that, and then there's the residents themselves, right, with the betterments and the refined line. You know, and it's,
Or we take that off the table.
and that might come out of this discussion, you know, that, and it's,
You watch it for dedicated line,
Yeah, well, rather than for the apartments and,
we put a dedicated line in though, and then they do pull out, and nothing happens to that property for 10 years. Now we got a dedicated sewer line, going to nothing.
right, exactly, people will ask that question. I don't know.
well, but as you all know, if we lose the grant, we probably are never gonna get another one.
It'll never be cheaper.
And we probably might never get one for that, from an agency ever again. That's the problem.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think that's a PC term anymore, but that we will be.
100%. That's a major thing that then we put forward. They need to understand that probably as much.
I think they explained it, you know.
You know, that's a lot.
I know the
lot
board,
of
but you, the board may understand it,
you know.
boards may understand it, but I don't think the residents really care.
And that's,
Um,
right.
And I also think it's not, I shouldn't say not unrealistic, but I don't think it's unfair to be able to get something in writing with Devco as far as if the project does move forward, you commit to pursuing this. You know, if it happens,
Yeah.
you're in, but you're under no obligation if it doesn't, you know, it's like, say if they want us to build it, it's like, okay, well, we wanna know if we build it, you're coming.
Right.
You know,
And paying your shit.
we're not saying you have to be there before we, you know, vote on it, but, yeah.
So does Devco have preliminary plans for that property? I mean, I've heard them
Conceptual,
done
or whatever you want to call it, yeah.
But do we have conceptual drawings as to what?
I haven't seen anything, no.
Yes, and they probably.
Because they have something to come up with a number, right? It was 150.
Have you guys seen anything?
Whatever. I don't know that they've shared it with anyone.
Curious about how they're. No, I haven't seen anything, so. I don't know how, I haven't had any discussions with them, so I don't know anything. Have you?
With Devco, we've been in meetings with them.
You have, okay.
Yeah.
And you have,
very limited.
Yeah. I don't know how much money they've sunk all their money into some, you know, testing and figuring out the environmental piece, you know, beyond what the town and state have already done. That's where their biggest concern is
Yeah.
cleaning it up.
The $3.5 million from the grant, that work's been done, probably, right?
no.
Engineering work?
No, we had a grant, we had 520,000
Okay.
grant
Okay.
for the design,
Done deal.
and that's,
And the 3.5 is the
Yeah.
construction, okay. And it's for the construction of the sewer plant. Because the water's being run.
Water's
back to us. This is a sewer funded entity.
So the only other option, we talked about it before, is that the town invest in the town and take on that 1.5
Yeah.
that's unknown, you know, and pay for that by bond over time. It's a reasonable amount, you know, because it is gonna promote growth and tax revenues once that facility is built and occupied.
and
never been done, but it should be an option on the table for the town.
And it should be something that the elections should be supporting. Exactly what we do. Revenue, growth, right,
It's an investment in
and
future.
infrastructure improvement. Yeah. Could even be a debatable item.
Maybe when we have that meeting with, the certain parties, that would be able to be clear without, so much static.
Yeah. Yeah, ask the hard questions. Put it out there and make people respond. Don't let people sit quiet, you know, we can ask them questions. You know, if they don't wanna ask questions, tell us what you don't like.
I guess maybe we should prepare questions ahead of time. Or do it in such a way that when we're making the presentation, they're almost forcing them to ask the question.
And I feel like, you know, we did it several times, and that last one, so after the FinCom voted it down, and we went before the select board 2 days later, before the last meeting with the residents, I feel like we kind of nailed it that night in terms of just laying it out, and saying, this is, you know, like, this is how we come to this betterment number. These are the things that we can work with. If you want to kick in more tax money, you want to increase the betterment to these people, what, you know.
Of course, if you bid the job out ahead of time, we'll have a real number that's supposed to projected number.
Right. That'll take that thing. That's always the last piece that comes out after everybody talks about everything. Like, and the other thing is, I don't think that number is going to be more.
Could we get that in time for fall meeting?
Yeah.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, bidding
Cost
it
the money to bid it.
sometime in late September, early October. Have the bid opening. Bids are typically good for 30 days. We can make them good for 60 days. Just
Yeah, we cover that.
that's not hard to do.
I just,
And then
and you always.
and then you've got an act. Then it's no longer an estimate.
Yeah,
It's a number based on estimated quantity.
In that range, yeah.
But remember that the contingency, so the contingency.
There's no contingency
So the-
on it. Yeah. Anyway, that's the path we're on. So, like I said, we'll wrap up the plans and specs to just have them available, continue the public outreach. So we'll circle back and find out how we're doing this with this focus group and see if we can get something on the calendar this month. After that. Very comfortable both of the periods. Well, I guess to circle back, so the Zero Reservoir, the one up top, by Elm, like I said, we don't know where to head with it, but what I do know is they responded to our comments. So they sent their responses back, there were a couple things they didn't address, we said, what about this and this, and they responded back again. So they've addressed everything that we asked in our peer review letter.
So even though they've changed their initial, layout and building quantity, which was still gonna go to Rumford and be okay, we can pick up to 60, that's the proposed here, which is small.
I think, yeah, it was barely,
I knew it was close.
it's close. It's too close.
Okay, that's fine.
And that's why I say with, I mean, if we wanna go that way with this one, I mean, for that matter, well,
Have them come out the back, run down Mansfield Ave, and join the.
yeah, they can come the other way.
They could do it, right, as an option.
I was thinking about the whole tying to Elm Street, but it gets tricky because so the Zero Reservoir, at this point, they are in theory agreeing to extend the gravity sewer from where it currently is on Reservoir, the gravity sewer that flows down to Rumford Road, they can extend it to the front of their property and move stubs to the property along the way, but then their system is going to be a low pressure system on their property. Excuse me, it's a low pressure system, then they don't want to fix. Because it's a significant cost. And based, especially, I'm surprised, they haven't said anything about how the numbers are affected. Not an insignificant amount of gravity sewer extending for, 20 properties, and all we want. So with the Zero Mansfield, there's been a lot of back and forth, so we had a contract with them, we did use all that money, we went back and forth twice already. I mean, it's up to we can obviously get another contract, I don't know if if everybody's bleeding and dry with all the peer reviews that are being required. I don't think it'll be a lot, and I do, one of the categories in our general wastewater contract is peer reviews. It can be built through the commission. But if you want to get the money from them, we would need that to our contract with them.
I think we definitely would want some type of review,
Yeah.
full-on peer review.
I mean, we've done the full on, I think all the comments we've already made are still valid. There's a lot of ways to go, and it's tricky because all these play against each other. And, so the whole thing of this driving Elm Street is because it's a town project, because it's separation, so for it being a town project, all the people on Elm Street, to pay their share of it, and they have to connect within the 7 years. This project over here, being built privately, it's gonna stay private. Nobody has to tie in, so then it's what everybody wants, right? Oh, now if my system fails, there's something in front of my house, it's what I've been trying to explain on Elm Street is, the cost of this infrastructure is not you don't go and build sewers throughout the town just so that it's there if somebody needs it. It's not how it works. It's too costly as an infrastructure. But you get it funded by a developer, then and so that leads into the, you can certainly do what they're at. And it would be really nice to get the gravity sewer up to that subdivision, that first piece, which I feel like that's where we were, and that's what is getting shot down now because of what's going on with the decisions that have been made.
Mm-hmm. So what do you feel about what he's proposing? So reading your mind, I get the impression you don't like the fact that he's not providing services for both sides of the street.
I don't think there's any avenue where we can't have them do that. They need to do that. Or else,
So, yes,
getting a state road opening permit, especially, if someone is, if a contractor will do it and has done it all the time, great. But it's not an easy thing to do. And it's not an easy thing to do, and then you have to deal with.
So you're saying that
taking
it's not
across
easy
the
for a
road.
homeowner to do it?
Exactly. So
Yeah, like it's almost impossible in reality, because the state's not gonna issue that permit to the homeowner.
they'll issue it, but it'll take months, and it's difficult to figure out, and then they have to pay a detail on a state road, probably to a state top, and it's just very expensive. And, I think
How many homeowners, they're older homes, so they're probably small lots, not having any idea. How many homes are you talking about?
they had said
It's like 20.
was the number, they might go 20.
20 on one side or 20 altogether?
so not including, so there's this whole subdivision over here, right? So in this, we had asked for, gravity all the way, because it can be done. That's the way the comprehensive wastewater management plan lays it out, and this is what I was saying before, so it's just, in the comp plan, it's gravity sewer, up past here to like a high point somewhere in here, and then the hill falls off to the causeway, so there were like 6 or 7 homes that were gonna get grinder pumped up into the gravity. So they're basically saying, let's just turn it all into pressure sewer, which you can do. So, let's compare it to Elm Street again, right? So we do Elm Street as a municipal project. Elm Street is a municipal project. They all get assessed a betterment, and they have 7 years to tie in. We do this as a low pressure sewer. It's there if you need it, but guess what? You need a pump, and some of you need to be across the road. I mean that's the trade-off.
So we still have the fee on top of that.
And then the tie-in sewer.
I also think, and maybe I'm getting easy on what the planning board's actual job is, but to me, it's the plan for town growth. Yeah. So, from what I gather, either they didn't hear concern in level design when they said it, or they didn't say it, which is sell what a big deal this sewer and this corridor Mansfield Ave is. You know, like when I told Paul, yeah, they were gonna put a sewer line down the road that no one needed to pay for until they tied into it. And his mouth almost hit the wall. He couldn't believe it. And he's like, I don't think the planning board knew that. Like, well then shame on Concern and Level Design for not bringing that up. I don't know if that's the case. I know that there was some agendas on that planning board decision. But, you know, I mean, it also, you know, annoys me that they're holding their feet to the fire, so they can't build one of these buildings, so now we need to have what, in my opinion, is an inferior sewer setup. It's not awful, but there was a reason the board said we want gravity instead of force to begin with.
It limits the growth potential in that entire area by going with the low pressure sewer port. You know, if there was gonna be some property that was built out, and there was a large development, or a large, commercial property going in there, and wanted to connect to it, they wouldn't have the option to do that. I mean, so that system can't handle that flow.
So planning board doesn't ask for your review and recommendations when they review a project?
Once in a while, there'll be some discussion that goes back and forth, but with the transition of them not having a planner for a very long period of time, the interim planner that we had, who was very good at her job, there was still some learning process that was there. Maria, it was Maria. So there was a period of time that went on when some of these projects were started under the planner left, there was a vacancy there, so there was a lot of disconnect.
So the normal procedure would the planner would bring our recommendations to them on these projects?
It doesn't always happen that way. So the firms and stuff that we deal with, the contractors or the engineers, will typically go before conservation, then typically we would see them, then they take all that information and go up to planning or zoning or anything like that, unless there's some real hurdles that they have to get through for planning and zoning, because they like to see that, you know, they have at least some interest that the board is willing to work with them. You know,
I think it was a mistake of whomever presented this to the planning board should have had the sewer system squared away first. I think it was a mistake for them to appear before the planning board for a decision before. And it was right before this decision, we had a meeting with them and they wanted to address doing kind of half and half.
And we never heard back on what they thought was.
No, because I think it was
gonna work for them.
I think it was
So I
a
don't-
matter of days before they met with the planning board and got shot out of the sky for reasons that.
So we should try to straighten this, if she's gonna resubmit it, we should try to work out all those things. I mean, if you're gonna have, we don't know anything, pretend we don't know anything, do that, right? I'm speaking of you. You guys gotta be satisfied. You have to be satisfied.
So that's why I asked about if we're running low pressure force main all the way to the reservoir over where Norton Liquors used to be. Can we run a low pressure force main that whole length of road all the way? Because they're talking about running a dummy line. So it's not going to be running just to where their site is. It's going to be running all the way to the center of town. So, I mean, I think it should work. But
he can tell you whether or not it'll work, but.
Right, so they're, the properties are here, they need to get to here, is what we've told, that's the place they have it. So they're gonna put in probably like, quadruplex P1 units, or triplex for each building or something like that. And run a line from here all the way down, account for the number of properties along the way that are gonna connect inside the based on that. Right?
right. So my question was originally, up here somewhere was the reservoir.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
plan was to run
Right.
force main here to a gravity manhole that would go here. So now that gravity's not there, are we gonna be able to pump low pressure all the way down to the center of town here?
Yeah,
That's what I'm asking.
they're pumping downhill.
Okay.
So the head, the static head is negative. By the time you get down to here, it's all in the friction losses, so that head won't be here.
And that's
So then there's this neighborhood, you know, you leave
You would have to have
a
some
stub
type of
out to
stuff.
there, and it just affects the size of it. Where these things get tricky is, okay, we're gonna build this now, we tie our people in, we'll leave the stub this way, so we decide that now, for these properties to come in, and then all the properties along the way as well as these. If they never come in, and you only have these properties pumping, they're gonna be pumping through an oversized line until you get the velocity. You won't get great velocities until everybody's tight, if that makes sense, because you can't, you can't size it for them now, and then connect it to. You could do parallel, you could have, like, maybe from this spot, because of the uncertainty of what will happen back here, maybe you do a parallel, you know, 2 or 4 inch line.
We have one of those on Newland Street, right from the nursing
Yeah.
home?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is unused line.
That, from a cost perspective, wouldn't be, I don't think they thought, I didn't even talking about that.
Yeah, I think
about
it might be.
potentially doing, like, you can pump 2 small diameter pipes in the same trench, because you don't have to take a separate trench. They can be right next to each other as long as elevation wise, one can get under the other.
But I think he was talking about running both pipes up to his property to pick up the rest of Mansfield Ave on that other pipe, but we wouldn't even have to do that, they would just have to go to like Six Park, and then you could bring probably, there's not that many properties on Mansfield Ave into the existing force main that they do, probably six.
So the more and more we talk about this, the more and more I don't even like it.
It's a,
I like,
Somewhat
I like
complex,
the way you had it originally with the gravity with the.
well, it works, the elevation works.
He was talking a lot about this huge cost savings for them.
You'll get into this argument.
What is the driving, where is the cost savings coming from? It's still to dig in the road, put the pipe in.
No, he wants to,
He doesn't have to dig in the road.
he wants to dig in the.
So he's shallower, so you pipe can go up and down, you don't have to, so this, it
Okay,
isn't
but
a
he still has to
perfect
dig in the
down.
road to go across every single.
Well, he doesn't think he wants to do that, I mean, you know, he wasn't aware of that until he came here tonight. That's the problem.
Well, adding that into the mix, which I'm assuming we're gonna make it do,
I think it's still.
does that bring the cost more similar to where they were?
Maybe.
Revenue?
Maybe, I mean, that's.
Well, he was gonna deal with gravity, anyway, so with gravity in the road and going to either side of it.
Right, but you got, I mean, especially when the gravity gets deeper.
Yeah, it's deeper pipe, it's, you know, it's more costly to install, cause you gotta meet line grade.
Well, I think it's important, again, I'm just talking, you don't have to pay attention. I mean, I think if you, I mean, I'm trying to read your mind, and I'm just going for facial expressions, so I might be wrong, but I really think if we want both sides of the street at stubs, that's our minimum criteria. Whether or not it's more, ends up being more expensive than gravity line, that's its fault.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, two viable alternatives, A and B.
I agree.
Force main, gravity line, these are our criteria, that's what we want.
Right, I mean, gravity's preferable, but what's more preferable? Not having sewer on Mansfield Ave or having sewer on the other way? So, I mean, that people need connected.
And then, does he own the pump station?
I don't know if it'd be a pump.
Yeah, he would have,
Oh,
well,
just he
on
wants
his, he would have E1s or whatever
That
pump.
would be a main, something just be everybody's little pump contributing.
They would probably have common pumps for their buildings, but it would be just like.
That's something, okay, that's
like
right.
an E1 unit, it's not just.
Alright, well, they own them, it's fine with me.
Yeah.
And I
They
love,
own
and I
everything on
love
their
these ones, by the way, I think they're wonderful inventions.
I would assume that they may look at a value options and not go with the E1 buy-ins, they'd probably look at,
No, he said he liked the one.
He mentioned it,
when you start throwing costs at it.
Yeah, I mean, you paid up capital, but you're less on maintenance. I mean, it's really a wonderful piece of equipment.
That's not what they look at. They look at.
But no, you're right, I mean,
Well, they
that
said
that
all
can
the
be a
time.
criteria, you know, or prove equal.
But that's why, but I think we should stand firm with what we want.
Yeah, connections must be to all fronted properties. Yes.
I mean, that's the rule, and that's the rule.
What's been done, but some waivers have been looked at.
I mean, maybe there's an exception to the rule on that because of whatever, but I don't know, I have enough information.
My biggest concern with allowing this as a modified version of the original is, will it create a limitation to future growth, which is the whole purpose of why we installed the system. You know, if we can speak with the planner, explain to him what the newest variation is, and he can look at this map and say, well, based on this, and maybe even conservation involved, you know, there is no way that you can put in, you know, a huge apartment complex here, or, you know, a multi-use building that's gonna generate a ton of wastewater that this system can't handle, right? You know, that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to better the town, not limit it. So, with some discussions with the in-house personnel, we could probably get those answers and go from there. Unreasonable.
I mean, the next generation here, they should say to us, these guys really did a good job for us, as opposed to,
Not what the hell is it?
having the wrong, water service, whatever, saying whatever. We should hold our standards. Because nobody else out there cares. I mean, we have to care.
Right.
Unfortunately. I'll do it right the first time. Since it appears that others did not have it right in the past. So,
Well, that's our perspective. We may have been right at the time. But
no, I understand that too. Things change and standards change and details change. It's true. That's true.
well, we want the best
I mean,
for
At one point, lead water service was, I mean, I worked in a town in Walpole, New Hampshire, which was a halfway point between the Boston and Montreal Railroad. They had cast in place concrete water mains with lead surfaces stuck in the water main. And you say to yourself, well, why did they die of lead poisoning? Well, the pH was high enough that the lead didn't go into solution. I mean, the only reason why nobody, I mean, that's how it works.
It's on former corrosion people.
I mean, it only worked that way. I mean, it was cast in place water mains. I never seen something like crazy. Well, I mean, I've seen the wooden water mains. You ever seen those? Yeah. Downtown Boston had them. Because lead was the acceptable practice at one point. Hard to believe, right? So. Hey,
Where you go, right?
I moved for adjournment.
Hold on a second. Do we have, next meeting?
Oh, next meeting doesn't want to happen. My next meeting I have is
The 12th? August?
Yep.
Tuesday the 12th?
I have Tuesday the 13th.
Yeah, no, Steve's right.
13th.
I will be here. Something that they ring down, so I'm not. So, is that okay with you guys? I think so. Okay, so we're meeting the 13th.
That works.
Move to adjourn?
Not even move to adjourn, and a second motion.
Okay, I'll
All in
call.
favor?
Aye.
Very well. Thank you, everybody.
See you, John. Hey, thanks. Take care, everybody.